Thursday night at the Queens Public Library, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, often referred to as AOC for short, had to face another protester who had more luck in getting their cause heard. A woman pretending to be pro-environment began demanding environmentalists eat the babies.
Okay. Great. But we're not going to be here for much long because of the climate crisis. We only have a few months left. I love that you support the Green Deal, but it's not getting rid of fossil fuel. It's not going to solve the problem fast enough. A Swedish professor saying, we can eat dead people, but that's not fast enough. So I think your next campaign slogan has to be this: we got to start eating babies. We don't have enough time. There's too much CO2. All of you're a pollutant. Too much CO2. We have to start now, please. You are so great. I'm so happy that you're really supporting the Green Deal, but it's not enough. Even if we would bomb Russia, we still have too many people, too much pollution. So we have to get rid of the babies. That's a big problem. Just stopping having babies is not enough. We need to eat the babies, and this is very serious. Please give a response.
Thank you.
AOC seemed taken aback by the outburst. She later said she thought the woman might be having medical problems as the reason why the interruption went on for so long before the woman was removed. Soon afterwards, video of the disruption went viral and the meme "Eat Babies" began to climb on Twitter. But the Washington Post revealed on its cover that the disruptor was most likely a member of a group formed by a right-wing political agitator named Lyndon LaRouche. LaRouche, who was in prison for credit card fraud years ago, died earlier this year. His group has continued, and according to observers of the radical right, the organization has been on the upswing, recently in support of President Donald Trump. Dennis King is the author of Lyndon LaRouche and the New American Fascism.
Know what she was dealing with. Well, I can't, she thought that this was a crazy woman. Maybe on some level she was actually right about that, because some of the members of that organization, some of them are very clever, sophisticated, and professional. Others really are kind of bonkers. But nevertheless, you can't blame AOC for not knowing anything about the LaRouchians, because they've just been off the media's chart for so many years. And even when LaRouche died, the New York Times did an article that really covered up for him, in my opinion. And there's a history of that.
King says at the heart of LaRouche politics is anti-Semitism, the meme that Jews control the world's economy. Their biggest bugaboo is financier George Soros.
He died earlier this year, but really his wife and leaders of the various national organizations, the national LaRouchian organizations, had been running the organization for some time, for several years before that. And it's a movement. It's on all continents except Antarctica. In some countries, they have access to people in high places. LaRouche, over the past 20 years, has built a following in Russia, where he is highly regarded by the media there and by some academics as being this, the guru of the century. So LaRouche is not, you can't say that he is the fringe figure of ridicule and contempt that he became in the United States. That's not true everywhere around the world. Dirty tricks is one of the things that they're into. They're also into making conspiracy reports, often very elaborate reports that are useful to politicians. I guess that is a variety of dirty tricks, but certainly public dirty tricks is something that they have long been known for, going back, 30, even 40 years.
What kind of conspiracies?
They generally focus on the Jews using code language. There is a Jewish conspiracy centered in the city of London, they say, but they call this conspiracy the British, and yet they've put out posters in which you have a picture of Queen Elizabeth with a Star of David underneath her. Just like the Star of David was used to attack Hillary Clinton in 2016 by Trump's people. Now, I'm not saying when the Trumps did it, that this was the LaRouchians behind it, but the LaRouchians started using various types of code language that were then picked up by other people on the right. And, for instance, all over the world, George Soros is looked on as the symbolic evil Jew. And his picture and references to him are used to whip up anti-Semitism. You can see that throughout Eastern Europe. You can see it in this country. You can see it various other places around the world. Australia, where the LaRouche movement has quite a presence. Various countries in Western Europe, Latin America. I think they've also put out literature there about Soros, or they did some years ago.
King says LaRouche was often underestimated, but that some members are sophisticated activists.
The whole thing about eating babies, immediately for people in the Christian right, they will think of abortion. Then you have the issue of linking baby eating with environmentalism. So there you have the Green New Deal and abortion go together, under the rubric of baby-killing environmentalists. Then there was the issue of AOC being Hispanic. And I think that this is part of what the LaRouchians are trying to convey, that AOC is part of this evil indigenous movement throughout Latin America that's plotting against Christianity, plotting against Western civilization, and plotting against the anti-abortion movement. Here you have the three main themes of the Trump campaign: stopping abortions, climate denial, and stopping the Green New Deal, which they present as being a socialist thing, and then you have the issue of fear of people from Central America, because these people from Central America are somehow, they have this subhuman culture and they're dangerous to us. Those memes. Those are the memes of Donald Trump, but they're put together somewhat differently from the way he puts it together, so he can support them, but not, but there's no sense that, he's behind what they did. The whole thing is just, it's so absurd on one level, and it's so dangerous on another level. And that Donald Trump Jr. and his father would be picking up on this stuff and spreading it. It makes me wish, I stopped doing much with my website several years ago. It makes me think I better get back on the case. But it also makes me very, very annoyed about the leaders in the Jewish organization, and especially the Anti-Defamation League, who painted LaRouche as nothing but a kook, who basically, we can forget about him. He's just a kook. And everybody dropped the ball about him. And you can go now and see in Wikipedia, there's articles about him that was saturated with stuff that his followers had put in that give a totally false view of his organization.
LaRouche has been close to the GOP since at least the Reagan administration. LaRouche was said to have enjoyed full access to Reagan as an informal advisor. Despite hatred for Bush Senior, LaRouche continued attacking Democrats, in particular President Obama, who the group labeled a fascist.
I talked to somebody who was on the teams that were out there at those tables for 2 years, especially in the Northeast, and he said the people who were Democrats would call the newspapers and complain. But meanwhile, there were more conservative people who would stop and talk to us and show friendliness and give us money. So these tables, which they were having all over the country, probably had some kind of effect on helping push people to the right, because they were reaching people in communities where, like the Democratic Party wasn't doing anything, and therefore people were sort of they were open to the smears on Obama. And I think also it was a matter of covering up, the fascist tendencies of people. If they could see, and the racist tendencies, because if they could see Obama being seen as a fascist or even as a Nazi, then they can unleash their racism against him and say, oh, but he's a Nazi. And this is the type of psychological warfare that the LaRouchians, like Donald Trump, have excelled at, returning things into its opposite in sly, slick ways.
King says not to underestimate LaRouche supporters because they might seem like a fringe group, but that's just part of their style.
You have a situation where the LaRouchians are now coming back, and we can expect more dirty tricks from them in the course of the campaign year, and we'll see their tables out in lots of places, and we'll probably see, since you have a Republican Party that will believe in any conspiracy theory, we can see them coming out with new reports from time to time that appear to be well researched and put into attractive binders and with lots of charts and pictures and everything. They're very good at concocting this stuff, and you'll see that stuff finding its way to the Republican National Committee, finding its way to Rudy Giuliani, and finding its way to perhaps even into the White House.
Dennis King is author of Lyndon LaRouche and the New American Fascism.